What's good, Fight family? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about Jon Jones and a potential matchup down the line with Alex Pereira Chuma. This is a fight that I want to see so fucking bad. I've actually been saying I wanted to see this fight since last year when I realized that Chuma is not going to be touched at light heavyweight. Honestly, he just won't be. This is something I need to see. I need Jon Jones to come out here just one more time, Bones, and take down the new guard, please. Even though this technically, it's kind of the new guard. It's new to us UFC fans, but Alex is the same age, and he's been doing this shit his whole life, just like every other fighter. You know, he just got all this fame and whatnot super late in his career, and he's kind of just going on a Hall of Fame UFC run at this point. I mean, Alex Pereira is the man of the UFC right now. I don't care what anybody says. Obviously, if McGregor was active, it'd be Mac G, but it's not. It's Pereira. Pereira is the one fighting all the time. Pereira is the one that's constantly in our face, and I love it, dude. I'm not mad about it at all. It's like the perfect person to be saving the UFC at this time period. And honestly, he's exactly what Jon Jones wishes he could be right now. Jon Jones wishes he could be the person that everybody is, you know, looking at in the UFC, hyped about, giving all this praise to. Just everything about what's happening, Jon Jones has always wanted that to be for him. I think the problem is he makes it so obvious that that's what he wants and that he feels like he deserves to be respected that way because of his career, obviously trying to like make everyone forget about all of the extra stuff that comes along with Jon Jones's career. And Pereira, you know, he just comes in, stone face, Chuma, and then knocks everyone out. That's it. Like, how can you not love that shit? But now we're at a point where Chuma is clearing out light heavyweight, you know, similarly to how Johnny Bones did when he first came up. And all people can talk about is have him go up and fight heavyweight. Have him go up, become the first 3-division champion. Me included. I want to see greatness. I want to see history made. And Jon Jones is the best opponent for that type of history. What fight is bigger in UFC history than the greatest fighter of all time, who's the current heavyweight champion, defending his belt for the last time, his last fight ever, against a man that basically everybody thinks is unstoppable. I know we watched him get knocked out by Izzy not even 2 years ago, but like, honestly, recency bias, like, he's smoking everybody now. I kind of already forgot about the Izzy one, and I predicted the Izzy knockout too, like, but even I'm like, whatever, like, he's smoking everybody now at a higher weight class. Let's see him fight Jon Jones, dude. And if we talk about that matchup for a couple minutes here, logistically, weight-wise, Johnny is probably going to be a bit bigger. He has been bulking up into heavyweight, and I've been hearing that he walks around like 250 pounds. I would assume Pereira at his biggest is only like 240. I don't think he probably even gets past like 230. I think 233 is like the solid range for Poaton's walk-around. So we know Johnny has some weight, which will play a factor in the grappling. Because at some point, if Jon doesn't get immediately clipped or immediately caught with a leg kick that just like takes his leg out in one go, he's probably going to find a takedown on Pereira. And that's where this whole fight changes. I think that's where the odds makers get their crazy, like, minus 575 or whatever the fuck Jon Jones is at, because he is a crazy favorite for a potential matchup in the future between the two. I feel like the only thing that people could be banking on right there for that has to be his grappling. Obviously, in the striking, Jon Jones is no slouch. And honestly, when he was younger, I would say he had like 4.5-star striking. Because aside from the fact that he has no power, he mixes stuff up like almost nobody, ever. Like, Jon Jones is the original, like, PS2 fighter. It's like you're controlling somebody and, like, making them do shit. That's why he's called a look-see-do fighter. Because he looks, watches you do something, and he repeats it perfectly. As if he doesn't need to train it. I don't know. That's just how Jon Jones was when he was younger. And I mean, I know he still has a bit of that in him today, but he fights a lot more reserved and safe. Which isn't, you know, it's a smart thing to do. It's just not as reminiscent of the Bones of old. But I don't think that matters for him. I think you actually need to be approaching a fight with Poatan smarter. I think you need to not take those risks on the feet. Let's learn from Jamal Hill and Yuri Prohaska and all these other great strikers that get completely neutralized by this guy. Because he just seems to hit with different power, different intent. That would be like the biggest problem, obviously. On the feet, I think Jon Jones would have a really hard time. Those calf kicks, how like bouncy and how much he can float backwards on the feet in Poatan. I think if Alex made his game plan all about chopping that leg in the first 2 rounds, poking hard jabs in Jones's face, just trying to disrupt his vision, staying out of the range of the takedown, honestly just kind of staying in kicking range, And when you get Jon thinking about the kicking, then going for the hands, maybe mixing up the head kicks and whatnot, I think that's your smartest bet. But the more and more I run through the mental math, the more I feel like there is going to be a way where Jon Jones gets a hold of a leg or something. He grabs a limb, and I cannot see him not getting that man to the ground. And when they are on the ground, I feel like it is just, it's going to be a problem. Jon Jones on the ground with anybody is a problem, but especially somebody who didn't start Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu training until like the last 3 years of their lives. Yeah, it's just, there's levels to this game. I do think if it goes to the ground, Jon Jones probably TKOs Pereira or finds a submission. I do think so. I think he mounts him. I think he pretty much does what he wants with him. It's not even just the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu that I'm thinking about here. It's the wrestling. Jon Jones was a collegiate level wrestler. He was a really high level wrestler. I mean, you see that when he takes on people like DC. You don't see people doing that to DC. It's fucking Daniel Cormier, bro. Like, when it comes to wrestling, DC's probably one of the greatest, if not the greatest wrestler to ever compete in the sport. Point blank, period. And Jon Jones was taking him down with ease. It's almost like he had a goal to just take him down more than he ever got taken down in those fights. It's impressive when you see the mentality of Jon Jones. I don't think I've ever seen Jon Jones break mentally ever in my life. That is probably the most impressive thing about the dude. I do feel like I've seen Poatan kind of fold here and there. And on top of that, defensively, Jon Jones, night and day, is the better fighter. Alex Pereira fights with fucking pure offense, and it works for the most part. Obviously, Israel Adesanya was able to clock him, and even in their first fight, almost put him out cold with the similar combination with that straight hand, just because, you know, that weakness is prominent. Now, Jon Jones doesn't have the ability to shut off the lights like that, like Adesanya is going to, on the feet. I can never see Jon Jones knocking out Pereira on the feet. But I can see him setting up his takedowns, setting up his grappling, setting up control time with the striking. To me personally, though, I do think it's a lot closer of a fight. I would give Jon like a minus 250 favorite. Giving him anything over a 2-1 favorite just seems ridiculous. Like, are we just forgetting that they're both still men at the end of the day? They both put their pants on one leg at a time, and Pereira is fucking murking people left, right, and center. You can't disrespect him giving him fucking plus 300 or anything like that. I just don't agree with that at all. And I am one of the biggest Jon Jones fans out there. I'm one of the only people, similar to Dana White, and he gets a lot of fucking like critique for this. I'm one of the only people I know that heavily defends Jon Jones and always has because of his fighting career. I don't give a fuck about the picograms. Obviously, when it comes to a human being, I care about some of the other shit he does outside of the cage. But when it comes to his legacy, bro, I don't give a fuck. Like, he is the greatest fighter of all time. Of course, he has a fucking weird life outside of the cage. I don't know what it takes mentally to be that person. I also don't know what it would be like walking around every day knowing there's not a soul on this fucking planet that can do shit to me. Like, obviously, there's going to be a freak here and there that isn't really known by the world and doesn't compete in combat that can do some shit. But, like, realistically, no man on the planet can challenge this dude. Like, what does that do to your brain? What does that do to your psyche? Y'all got to think about that sometimes. And maybe also stop trying to, like, group in how you feel about a fighter so much with how much you think they're going to compete. Because so many people talk shit on Jon Jones or act like he can't beat somebody like Alex Pereira simply because they don't like who he is as a person. They don't like what he does outside of the cage. Bro, stop being soft. That is the problem with so many of you MMA fans. You watch the hardest sport in the world, and you're some of the softest motherfuckers on the planet. Like, either find soccer or something, or start to appreciate what makes a fighter. Point blank, period. That's going to be the end of my little Jon Jones rant here. I think Jon Jones, in this potential matchup, wins, and he walks out into the sunset a 29-0 fighter, the greatest to ever do it. Nobody can ever doubt it. And if he beats Alex Pereira, well, Pereira is so fresh in all of our minds as this destroyer, this world beater, walk off into the sunset and everybody will give you the praise you've been so desperate for, Jon. Everybody will. You won't need to defend yourself, talk about how you're the pound for pound on Twitter anymore. You don't need to do that. Just let your resume speak for itself. That's all I have to say on the subject. Let me know what you guys think down below about who takes that fight. If it ever does happen, let's all just pray to the MMA gods that the end of this year, November, December, we get that matchup. Close out 2024 as one of the better years in combat sports. And if that matchup happens, like I said, greatest fight in UFC history, nothing tops it. And I think it will draw a top 3 gate. That's all. I'm going to catch y'all.